that we want to accomplish this year. And one that we want to look at today is actually our A through G data. And that is one of our goals.
You're on
is
the
to
table,
increase
Ryan.
our percentage of students completing A through G
Go in and sign
by
in.
2%. And this year, actually, our leadership team worked with our COE, and we did kind of a transcript analysis of our graduating class from last year, and going through and looking at the data and seeing were there any barriers or things that were holding our students back from completing A through G. So what we wanted to share with you guys today is the results of this analysis. So the whole team was in here, leadership, about 25 of us, and we went through every single student's transcripts individually and looked at them to see that they completed their grad requirements in A through G. So the data is very interesting, and we can kind of look at some things that we can do as a site to improve how our students are performing. So I'm going to turn it over to Robin, who's going to start working on this with us.
So part of this, and it's very important for us to look at this, and we talked about this as an instructional leadership team. When we look at data and we don't look good, it's really hard. And the first thing is to go, well, this department doesn't do this, and counseling doesn't do this, and admin doesn't do this, and English doesn't do this, and we're not going to move anywhere like that. We can't. So if we're going to look at this data and begin to accuse each other of not doing our absolute best or not understanding where the situation is, we won't be able to move forward. So this is a time when we look at data as a professional learning community and we embrace the facts we see. We think about it, we reflect on it. The leadership team's been reflecting on this for about a week. They haven't seen this full report. When they see some of this, the completed report, it's interesting to look at. So I ask you to kind of take a deep breath, to work through this with us, and to consider, you're going to see in the slides that Penny and Gil helped us with this. For those of you who know, they were co-principals from Chaparral, which was kind of fun for Sarah and I to get to work with co-principals. They're now at the county level. So they understand kind of where we are, our dynamics, they're familiar with the history of our school, so they have a great heart for working with us.
And they've worked with a lot of different districts over the years to help them really look at their data, analyze it, and kind of make some changes to support the students. So that's really the purpose of going in, because we know our data is unique to us. We can't just make sweeping generalizations. We need to know what's going on here at Elsinore High School. So that's kind of the purpose of why we did this analysis.
There's kind of three things that we need to look at this as you guys read this. What are our choke points? Meaning, where have we kind of stopped? What can we open up? Then access and success. When we define access, it's are we allowing kids to get into a class? Are they being scheduled in? Do they get immediate remediation? When we look at success, what are we doing for grading? How are kids getting interventions and support, extended learning? Oops. So these are the A through G requirements. You can look at that briefly. You know what these are. These are embedded in the counselors' minds and hearts. Notice we go for the CSU and USUC.
I've been here.
These are your posters. If you need a poster, remember, this isn't our poster. We've taken it, and Studio 1891 has made it very Elsinore friendly. So if you still need one of these posters in your classroom, contact Judy. She has them. So this talks about the data. The people who were with us that day literally put in 40 transcripts per person that was working with us. So the data was put in by the people on the team. Because I know sometimes there's an issue of trust. There's no issue of trust here because it was our team putting in our data. So it's very clear. You can see how the data was disaggregated. So this is the numbers that begin to get difficult to see. On the left side is what is the average of California State A through G completion rate versus graduates. The middle is Riverside County, and the right side is Elsinore High. So you can see we're lower than California, we're lower than Riverside County. So this now becomes race and ethnicity. Remember, we're looking at these issues right now. Access, success, choke points, and what do we see here? Are you guys all able to look at and read this chart comfortably? Do you have any questions regarding the chart or how it's being presented?
Robin, can you just go through the columns?
Sure.
Just read what it says on the bottom.
So the bottom is A through G completion rate.
Okay, that's better.
Is that better? Okay. The second row is number of students, A through G completed. And we're gonna send this out to you guys electronically.
Okay.
So you're gonna get it electronically, but today we really just wanna have the discussion. So the second is number of students. That's why you see a small number. And A through G incomplete, meaning a student did not meet that requirement. Is this what you thought we would look like by race, ethnicity? Because this is kind of how we've always looked, isn't it? Juan?
What's the missing part again?
Means they weren't identified by,
So we're not identifying, By
that
race.
student is not identified by race, yes.
Yes. Missing, very good. It could usually is they didn't have an issue here, they didn't have the ability to put biracial or multiracial.
The next one?
Yeah. So here's my subgroup. Female and male. I want you to look at that. That perhaps was the most shocking thing for Sarah and I personally as we kind of dug a little deeper in here. Females and male, a 20% gap. SED, remember, is social economic disadvantage. Our poor kids, our poverty kids. SWD is students with disabilities. And then students on a 504. None of our students on a 504 were A through G. And about how many students do you think we have, Hector, on a 504? Linda, how many? Yeah, about 85 to 90. Our students with disability, 4% of our students. And Linda, we're sitting at about what, 290 for special ed? Yeah. Okay. Oops. So here's here's by category. So now look at your completion rate by, and A means history. So A is the level, B is English, C is math, C science, LOTE, math and elective. So remember the completion rate is a percentage. How many students completed in that level? How many, and then remember the number is down below. Incomplete is a number of students who didn't make it. So what do you see there that we're having difficulty as a school? What do you see? Math. Not a surprise, right? Math teachers. Art. Yeah, actually, that's a great question. What are our strengths here? What are our strengths? FAPA, elective, no TA, stop that. Stop that, no TA, not A through G. Was this surprising data? No? Okay, let's go to our next slide. A through G, completion category for students without a disability. So we've taken all the students without a disability out to look, are we any higher? And what do we look like there? What do you notice? Where's our strengths there? FAPA, elective, history, then science, foreign language, then English, then math.
And one thing that we notice, we see a common bell curve with our data. So it doesn't matter which subgroup we're looking at, we're seeing that same pattern.
What she's talking about is, see this, those of you in the back, you're gonna see this pattern consistently. There's gonna be no surprise in this pattern. So this is our American Indian, which is 5 kids.
They did a great job in Bappa.
Yeah. And this is our Asian students, which is a total of 6 kids. So now see that curve? And it's important to look at that because some of this data we have to realize when we have natural curves like that, how we need to then boost that chart for everyone, right? Because that's what that's showing us. Look at the natural curve again. Filipino, we have 16 students. This is our Hispanic curve. Now this is something that's interesting to us, they brought up. They asked us, with our students that we know are speaking 2 languages or have the availability to speak 2 languages, why isn't this stronger with this subgroup? So it challenges us to look at our placement. It became very apparent that our ELD 1s and 2s, Laura kind of had this idea, this kind of awakening. Laura and also Kathy, what are we doing to our ELD 1s and 2s? And why aren't we putting them in a native Spanish 3? Or if they're reading and writing in Spanish and they pass our entry-level test in AP Spanish? We're realizing that our Spanish speakers 1s and 2s we're not placing in Spanish, where perhaps they could make some success and access to rigor in A through G. Like I see lovely Miss Denise shaking her head, yes, yes, yes. So we realize that that may be what we call an access point, an access issue. Remember, we're looking at access, success, and then our choke points. Pacific Islander, 2 students. Here's our white students, which follow our same graphics. Ethnicity missing, meaning the kids didn't report what ethnicity they are. Following the same graphics, but a little more depressed. Okay, so here's our socioeconomic kids. It's a comparative. Left side are our socioeconomic kids, our kids who are struggling with poverty. The right side are our kids who would have those fundamental needs. So our SED kids are doing well in BAPA, but everywhere else they're underperforming. So remember, as we look at data, that underperformance is called a gap. So much legislation and so much work is how do we close that gap? Because why is it kids who come from poverty perform lower in school? Now you guys as teachers know a lot of these answers. But the issue is we can't look at how they get to us. We can only look at them as when they cross the door. They cross our threshold, they're ours. So we cannot look at them and say, well, this is happening at home, this is happening at home, this is happening. We must respect that, but we have to see what we can do to make this equal. And this becomes that kind of, remember we talked a little bit about that moral impact? This is the thing that makes me stay awake at night. This is what Sarah and I are like, how do we close that achievement gap so all kids have access and success? Here's our EL learner. Very concerning, because look right here. Look right there, math and English. That's the issue of what? Access and success. So because they're in an ELD 1, an ELD 2, an ELD 3, they're not even having access to the coursework. And kind of let me hold on to that slide for a minute. What's hard and what we face in our ELD, Denise will tell you, Kathleen will tell you, Laura will tell you, Dr. Galisi will tell you, is these kids where they should be? It's right here. That should not be an issue for math. So we have an access in math where kids could be achieving who have a different language. So, and remember, this isn't, when I say we have an issue in math, I'm not saying math department, and I'm not saying counseling department, I'm saying we, large group, we. This is students with disability. What is this an issue of? Special ed teachers, what is this an issue of? Access or success? Access, because why? What? Both, Linda says. Why do you say both, Linda?
Well, because we have some kids that should be in general ed, so that's access. And we have some kids who are in general ed and don't have the skills to be successful.
Correct. So that's the interventions and the support. So we remember when you're in one SAI class, you no longer have access to A through G. This is our 504 kids. Okay, here comes that gender, guys. Now, Donna Romo and her team, Ryan Stevens and the AVID team, and Vicki is the AVID counselor, have been facing this for years. There is an inequality in AVID. We cannot get enough males in AVID. Very interesting when you look at these gaps. These are almost bigger than any other gap we have. Now, I look at this room, and you look, there's males in this room, right? Males in the teaching profession, we have males in our counseling, we have males in our admin. Look at this dip though, you guys.
And Penny and Gail shared with us that usually there is a 10%. That's usually what they see. We have a 20% gap at our site. So that's just something for us to look at and try and figure out why and what we can do to support our young men in their classes, that they're not finding success.
Well, and Sarah has an interesting thought on this and why this may be tied to our economy. Kind of share that.
Which one?
About the young men and relying on work.
Yeah. And it's come out a lot of young men, their families prior, you know, dad was in construction, you went into dad's business. And then when the economy kind of started to fall and those jobs weren't as plentiful, then college became more of a focus for parents with the young men. You need to get a college degree, you need to. So we started to see an increase in that achievement with our young men going into higher level rigor courses because that access to dad's business wasn't there anymore because our economy was falling and those jobs weren't as plentiful. But now we're starting to see those jobs pick up again. Where you're starting to see more young men going, I want to go into construction. I'm going back into dad's business because we were finding that success again. Just a theory, we don't know if it's true or not, but we're starting to see a lot of those patterns. But then those students we also want to push towards our CTE pathways. Because if they want to become a welder or go into construction or computer science, we have those opportunities for them.
I personally live this story. I have a daughter and 3 boys who are all adults, as you know. The daughter has a bachelor's from Fullerton and a master's from UCLA, and she's a librarian. The 3 boys, 2 of which are older and 1 that is younger, have not succeeded at the rate she succeeded at. So I got my boys together and I said, so tell me about this. And my daughter, we were talking, I said, why is it you boys coming from 2-teacher family, coming from a healthy economics, why is it you boys did not succeed at the rate your sister did? Because they're all smart and capable. And the boys were like, Mom, there was not a focus on us in high school. Now they're 30. So, I mean, let's put that in perspective. They're like, there was so much focus on girls, on being athletes, on having access to science, on having access to math. There were outreach for nights to get girls to college. And I was like, wow. And I said, but like you're in our family. And they're like, we just didn't have that motivation or that drive when Jenna kind of had some built-in supports. I thought it was kind of intriguing. They went to Temecula and Great Oak. So, I mean, these are high schools you understand and know about. But, and then I thought, as a parent, how did I kind of miss that boat and let my boys kind of flail for a little bit, thinking they had all the information and knowledge and support, when in reality they didn't. I did take it for granted, and they took it for granted, and some of you who have read some of that kind of, the white knapsack, like, here are males that I thought were just getting it, they were part of the system and moving on, and they weren't. So, we're seeing across everything that we're missing it with our boys. And it's kind of compelling data for us. So this is the male-female for all of the subgroups that we talked about.
Robin?
Yes.
So, this issue of the discrepancy between males and females is a cultural phenomenon, it's a national phenomenon.
Yes.
Happened for about 15, 20 years, and it's like we swung the other way. Like, remember back in the day, it was like, I'm being stereotypical, but like in the 50s and 60s, picking on the males in the classroom to answer the questions, telling women you can't, don't go into the sciences, home ec and all that. And then we've switched completely, right? But it's like a national thing. It's not like
It is, but national, and this is the interesting point, because Donna has the national data. National, we're only looking at like 10%-ish, 10 to 12%. We're looking at 20%, which is interesting for us, which is why I think some of that is economics. What Sarah kind of talks about is the role of the male to go work for the family.
Well, that makes only sense when you look at people who go into construction in the first place. Most people look for the high school degree, and most of my friends who are in construction, most of them have the high school degree. They're not thinking A through G. They're not thinking, I'm going to college, I'm going to go to construction, so all I need is a high school degree.
The minimum requirements,
Right.
which then brings us to, shall we get to a point where all our courses are A through G work? And what would that look like? Because there are some high schools in California where all the coursework is A through G. Nothing non-A through G is allowed to be on the books because of exactly that point, because some of that too is, as we all know, kids don't know. They don't know. So once they get out of high school and they don't have access, and we're requiring them to start at a junior college.
Is this the first year we've done this? Do we have other years to compare? Could it be an anomaly that it's 20 years after this?
No.
Nope.
No.
We did it for years. Oh, we've done that, okay.
We haven't done the transcript
Okay.
analysis, we've done.
I have.
Yes, Donna's done it, and then in the summer, Vicki, Donna Johnson and I have done it, but we've never compared, gender. When we do it, we're just looking for the access point for groups. We're gonna try to do this every year so we get that data, and it continues.
But Donna hasn't always been 20%.
Pretty much. I've been looking at all senior transcripts for several years, and it's been pretty consistent.
Has it been more consistent are you looking
You know
specifically
when
at
we saw
Abbott?
the change? No, I've looked at all senior transcripts. When we saw the change, and we started seeing more males come into Abbott even, was when we were going through that poor economy. And all of a sudden, people are showing up and putting their sons into Abbott, the kids we had a little bit better completion rate for males. And then, of course, economy gets better, and typically this area, and I've been saying this for years, typically this area has been one where families do fairly well in the construction, those types of jobs where they don't need a college degree. So they kind of follow through. Yeah, it makes sense. And then all of a sudden, when things started, the dads losing jobs are no longer getting jobs or truck driving and so forth, then the parents were coming and going, I want my kid in Abbott, I want my kid in Abbott. And so then I was seeing higher completion rates even across the board with seniors.
So this is something to look at, success and access. So success means, remember, go back to success, they got a D. So when you look at that
No,
first
C.
line, it means success, they have a D.
No,
or
a
an F.
C or better, A through G.
But yes. You have to, you can flip it, but Your access issue rates is they were not scheduled in it, or they were not remediated into it. So there were 100 kids who had success issues. This is,
What we found a lot is going through transcripts, like we might have a 10th grader who failed one semester or got a D in one semester of world history. Most of it was a D, and they never went back and remediated that D. So they may have completed all the rest of the A through G requirements, but one D took them out. And so, and we found that quite a few times. And Penny would say that's a low-hanging fruit. That's something that we can easily fix with our students, and we have that data coming up as well.
so this is the data taking out students with disability. This is your American Indian data. This goes by the subgroup of all ethnicities.
So this slide is talking about students with success issues 1, 2, or 3 courses by category. So if you look at the 1, those are students who got a D or F in one course.
One
That took them
semester.
One semester.
Right, so one course failed, look at this. That number, this is what's that low-hanging fruit that Sarah just talked about. Look at that one course fail that could make us provide more access for kids. That means everything else was perfect. But one course, one semester.
And that's a D? That's,
It's
you're
a
talking-
D.
A D or an F,
A
yes.
D or an F.
That would be by semester?
Yes.
Semester.
3 courses would be 3 semesters?
Uh-huh.
So 3 courses, right, would be 3 semester. And we talked with Penny last night, Dana, to clarify this, because we wanted to make sure we weren't talking year long. So look at how, and remember your one course, Dana, your one course falls into your 2 course numbers, falls into your 3 course numbers. The numbers collapse into each other. John Gowdy, what math question are you
No, it's
gonna?
not a math question.
Oh, good.
So one kid could be across the board, correct?
One kid could be.
I got all D's, so I
One
could
kid-
be in the 52 and the 71
Yes.
and the 80.
Yeah.
and the- Okay.
You could be, and that's something that if we can drill down on that data. You could be.